here for the Atlanta Braves. Two late inning victories for the Bravos. Many might have been watching the Coca-Cola 600 instead of the ball game, which really, you start to think about it, and I don't know, you could say, well, if they had a national game on a Sunday, like for the, normally what the race is for NASCAR or whatever. But I don't know. I just, the Braves last night, I think that, they win in exciting fashion. It's why you love baseball. And it's just, where's the superstation where we know, we can follow this along and all that. Oh, Sunday night. I don't know. It just, that experiment, that's supposed to be the game of the week. And that there aren't any, national afternoon, Sunday after or Saturday afternoon games anymore. They're all Alabama quarterbacks. And from victory there, if you will. But Unitas from Louisville, and all that. That's here. Super Bowl VI you had from Navy, Rogers. But nevertheless, in that sense, playing at Alabama, Starr was an SEC figure, although he was a much greater NFL figure. But Starr's passing at the age of 85 was not. But Rod Bramlett, voice of Auburn the last 16 years, he and his wife Paula, pending. You hate to see that for a 16-year-old driver. That just ruins for the rest of your life. That's awful. And I'm assuming that it's just an accident. I guess they're still going to have the investigation and such, but even so. Yes, Paula Bramlett and Rod Bramlett, he'd been calling the Auburn games for 16 years, now passing away. One of the things that bothers me, I think, is that when I'm looking at what they are saying, though, about Bramlett, it isn't, oh, this is a wonderful sportscaster. It was, he was such an Auburn fan. And not, shouldn't you have some molecule of objectivity? I've always thought so. Anyway, that's the one passing. The other passing, I guess, you would look at is Bart. Some of the takes that I would get to about Bart Starr, of course, the victor in the first two Super Bowls. The second Super Bowl, by the way, had a real ETSU presence because it was refereed by Jack Vest, yes, of Jack Vest Drive fame. He had been a quarterback at ETSC back in the 40s and then went on to become a prominent NFL referee, obviously Super Bowl II official Jack Vest. Okay, so you had that as part of the Bart Starr connection. John Rock, who was the Raiders coach that went against Starr in Super Bowl II, his son John Rock at the time was a wide receiver for ETSU. They'd be, the short passing game, let's say, or whatnot. And they had a 24-year-old coach, and I'm looking his name up right now because forgive me and all this, but they had from Super Bowl II, and oh geez, I'm gonna have to look it up. But he was actually an ETSU grad, and let me see here, Raiders kicking coach. And I'm looking at this. And his name, oh geez, this sounds terrible, but I'll get you the name. And I say I'm going to get you the name. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. We've got the assistant coaching staff right now. If I can get to this, hopefully we've got the assistant coaching staff. No, I don't know if we've got that on the 66 Raiders or not. But, no, they had a 24-year-old kicking coach from ETSU, and I know somebody is screaming at their radio right now saying, it's this guy's name, but the world's slowest computer is just really failing me at this time. So there was that local sense in terms of the people that he went up against in Super Bowl II of Bart Starr that I know a lot of people maybe you're not talking about or maybe don't even know. Seriously, myself, because I cannot remember the Raiders kicking coach's name, and we'll get that, but it's just, yeah. Anyway, a few things to remember about Starr I remember very well, and again, he retired before I was born. I do remember him as a head coach of the Packers. I remember that the Packers under Lynn Dickey and in the 80s lit up the scoreboard with a lot of points, but they didn't play much defense. And so they had winning teams. I can remember them once, Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins would go 38-47 at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, behind Lynn Dickey, one of the more exciting Monday night football games really ever played. And that was a big time for the... Are we getting... Hold on, I got to check this out. No, we're still having some problems with our... should we hit that? I don't know. Anyway, point here is that... And I'm sorry, we've been distracted here because the commercials are supposed to be playing right now, and we just, evidently our computer system, the old technical difficulties, and we don't have them. I do apologize. Well, I think you probably, hey, no commercial radio, great, this sort of thing. But our sponsors would like us to play them, certainly. Anyway, point here being that Starr was somebody that you always really indicated shows that you would air at like 10:30 in the morning, and for whatever reason, I don't know, it was one of those times where you were in elementary school but the teacher wasn't teaching, so everybody huddled around and they watched TV. And they used to play Flipper and Gentle Ben, this is a while back, in syndication, early 80s, okay, and you would see the Star of Green Bay with Clint Howard. Yes, Ron Howard's brother. That's a real generational thing, how you think of Ron Howard. If you're of an older generation, you think of him as being Opie. If you're of a middle-aged generation, you think of him as being Richie Cunningham. If you are of a more modern generation, you think of him as a film director. And a balding one at that. Hard to get young kid out of the balding, director Ron Howard, to be brutally honest with you. But, personally, me, I like Eat My Dust. That's what I think of, Darlene is into fast cars. Hoover is into Darlene. It's tough to promo than that, really, One of my favorite, That was Bart Starr. Think about that. An entire television episode of the 60s was built around Bart Starr. Well, wasn't that unusual, I guess. Brady Bunch did a Joe Namath episode, this sort of thing. You want to talk about TV shows of the era, and that's almost it is a half century ago, come to think of it. So it was a long time ago. I just wonder, this episode of Gentle Ben has been totally forgotten about. I wonder if it'll get rerun on, say, an NFL network or something like that, now with Bart Starr's passing and all that. But I've always remembered, yes. And in the episode, as I recall, Clint Howard's character is playing football, and it goes down to the last play at the 7-yard line, and Clint Howard is the quarterback, and if he throws a touchdown pass and wins the game, he not only will lead his team to the title, but he will win a pair of football shoes for being the leading passer. You see, he's like 6 yards short of the title. And, he comes to the sideline. They're expecting a passing play. We better run the ball. From the 7. I want to talk about the Packers sweep being effective. Somebody else gets the football shoes, and Bart Starr tells Clint Howard how unselfish he is. That's the thing. So I remember that about Bart Starr as well. But yeah, the one other thing I'm thinking about with Bart Starr, though, in his passing, is that of quarterbacks that have gone to the Super Bowl, and this is obviously a good thing, very few of them, not to be morbid, especially not on Memorial Day, but I do think, and I want to make this very few, thankfully, quarterbacks of the Super Bowl have died. In fact, it wasn't until Super Bowl 37 that a quarterback passed away. who had played in a Super Bowl. It was John Unitas in 2002. Super Bowl came around in 1966. David Woodley then died young the next year. Remember, he took the Dolphins, Super Bowl 17. Steve McNair, Titans, Super Bowl 34 in 2009. Earl Morrall has passed. Ken Stabler has passed. And now Bart Starr has passed. But of all the quarterbacks that have ever, started the Super Bowl, and as long as the Super Bowl has been around, 53 years, I also wonder, you hear about them, yet all these iconic football players, the Super Bowl quarterback. And thankfully, they're all still with us, even with 53 years of Super Bowls being played. Is beneficial in the long run. It's something that isn't discussed much in the modern era, I think. Anyway, I was breaks again. Up for you from last night finally, and then they kicked us off. I can believe it in this computer. That's why we don't have the ads here and such. Anyway, here we go. I want to also talk a little bit about, if we will get to this, so going back to some more football, the sportsbook has offered opening spreads for every regular season game. You aware of this? Sportsbook. Are you familiar with this when we get into the NFL? You've got, it doesn't begin until September, but Las Vegas sportsbook operator CG Technologies has picked a spread for every game. And you can find these games. I think you can get a good number in when you're, playing and such. But here we are, and it's kind of intriguing to see what, the lines think of the various teams right now. This is the projection. Just to take the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they're one of the more talked about teams in the NFL. And I have a following here and such. Anyway, just going with this, the Steelers and New England Patriots. That's not the kickoff game of the NFL season. It is the Sunday Night Football game, Week 1. And that's pretty big. You've got an over-under of 52. It is at New England. Patriots are a 6.5-point favorite. Now, remember how point spreads go. Home team in the NFL gets a field goal. Intriguing, as the Pats try to make the Super Bowl fourth straight year, just like Buffalo did back in the 90s. Essentially, right now, Las Vegas thinks that the Seahawks and the Steelers are even. Second game of the year, Steelers are a 3-point favorite against the Seahawks, but they host them. Basically, the San Francisco 49ers, not the strongest team in the league, but they host the Steelers on Week 3. That's a pick'em game. That means that, all told, the people in Vegas think that the Steelers are closer to the Niners, who, they get D4, they get, some better pass rush, they will have Jimmy Garoppolo the whole year, but think about this. I know the Steelers didn't make the playoffs last year, but this is this sort of consistent, popular, winning team, and all the where will they go? Colin Cowherd is assuring everyone, don't pick the Browns, pick the Steelers in the AFC North. And what's going on? Well, they've got them 3 points ahead, basically, if everything else is equal, than the Niners. But 3.5 points behind the Patriots. So the idea is the Steelers are closer to the Niners than they are to the Patriots. Intriguing. They're at Week 4. Bengals come in. I think everybody thinks the Bengals are going to finish in last place this year. But they're not. The Steelers are a 9-point favorite to the Bengals. Some other games here that I look at. The Rams. Vegas thinks the Rams are 3 points better. That means that they think the Rams and the 49ers are about even. Intriguing. They've got the Steelers host the Miami Dolphins this year. They got the Steelers a 10-point favorite. That means that they think that the Steelers are a touchdown better than the Dolphins, who are projected to be one of the worst teams. Okay. Colts coming to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a 2.5-point favorite. That means that all things considered, the feeling is the Colts are a half-point better than the Steelers if you play them in a neutral set. When you look at this that way. What about the Browns? Everybody's darling, right? Well, when they play in Cleveland, Browns are a 2.5-point favorite. When they play in Pittsburgh, Steelers are a 3.5-point favorite. That means Vegas thinks that the Steelers are a half-point better. That could also be where the money line is going. Because remember, the Ravens and Steelers were even. Browns a half-point back. Think about this. All the Steelers fans out there, it's intrigue, trying to put it at, they'll be a half-point better. That evens out the money. That can be where that's from. But anyway, the early lines are right. You go to thelines.com and you can see this. Get an idea of what Las Vegas thinks is going to happen in the NFL this season. And so I look at that. Now, mentioning the Ravens, of course, the big news there was Lamar Jackson came in minicamp, did not know that the offense was changed. Got a new offensive coordinator in Baltimore, but hey, Lamar Jackson did not know the offense had changed in Baltimore. Remember, I began this talking about Donovan McNabb, the arrogant quarterback, the running quarterback, and it's, in the future, the running quarterback is going to be what's going to take place. Well, you take a look at what happened to Donovan McNabb. When his legs left, so did he. You look what happened to Colin Kaepernick. When his legs left, very young, so did he. There are some reformed scramblers out there. Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, speaking of old days quarterbacks, because of Bart Starr in the mind, who actually were able to reform into being more of a drop-back guy, and they were able to succeed in doing so. However, that's disturbing if you're a Ravens fan. And I know that John Harbaugh came out after, Jackson had a great mini camp. You just gave away a Super Bowl quarterback, admittedly one that was getting along in the tooth, in Joe Flacco, but one who is the franchise quarterback historically, Joe Flacco, for running Heisman winner. He had 3 yards passing for the first 3 quarters of the playoff game against the Chargers. You lost it at home. I gotta tell you, this isn't looking so good. I was the most skeptical of all the first-round quarterbacks drafted 2 years ago of Jackson because he was, yes, one of those guys that I thought, ran every chance he got. Quarterback with his legs first and his arms second. Well, now it's his legs first, his arms second, and his head third. This guy didn't even know that the offense had changed when he went into minicamp? What's he been doing? I'll say this. It's another reason why I think the AFC North this year is going to go between the Steelers and the Browns. Of course, a lot of people are talking about Ben Roethlisberger. I've had my points on that as well. Joey Porter came in, and former Steelers assistant coach, and he told the NFL Network a few days ago, it's clear Roethlisberger has the power, and how he uses it, you want your locker room to love you. That's ideal, certainly. I'm not sure the locker room, I used to cover the Steelers when Joey Porter was playing there. I'm not sure that he was ever 100% loved. He was basically one bad... Yeah. That's how he was basically portraying. I do remember him once, and we interviewed him about almost getting into a fight on the field with Ray Lewis right after Porter had been shot. Now, that was intriguing. Anyway, Once you have a bad situation, they're not going to pick up the phone, Porter told the NFL Network about Roethlisberger's relationship with Brown. If you felt slighted by any teammates, friends, teammates, once you feel like you've been betrayed in any type of way, I'm not picking up your phone call. Look, Porter himself was no, person of great, what should we say here? Porter was never any, choir boy himself, not that NFL players usually are. However, yeah, just because it looks like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown were selfish, don't think that Ben Roethlisberger wasn't himself. W.E.M.B. Irwin.